Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Well, we wish we were not here, but here we are. Mayor Demings has called this press conference due to the alarming positivity rates and the rapid spreading of the COVID-19 virus and its mutations here in our community. In a moment, the mayor will supply us with the history of our COVID-19 numbers, where we were, where we are. The mayor will also speak to rising hospitalizations and what we are recognizing from our data out of our wastewater treatment facilities. With these details backed by data, Mayor Demings will instruct on his directives and strongly reiterate his recommendations. But the mayor will also come and deliver some hope. With that, Mayor Demings.
Thank you, Dr. Williamson. Thank you to all of you for being here today. This is the 144th press event that we've had since the beginning of our fight against COVID-19 within this community. I believe that by now all of you know that I have endeavored as the Orange County Mayor to keep you fully informed during this pandemic and be as transparent as possible with you. I call this news conference to make sure that our residents and visitors understand where we stand in this COVID crisis and what action I plan to take to keep our community as safe as possible. So if we pull together, we can avoid a collapse of our economy that would be self-inflicted. We have the solutions that can help keep our economy churning. It begins with increasing the rate of vaccinations against COVID in our community and increasing the wearing of facial coverings. So let's look at the numbers at this time to understand what brought us to this point today. There are now 163,903 coronavirus cases in Orange County. 1 year ago, we had 27,400. The Department of Health Services reports that yesterday there was 1,371 new coronavirus cases reported in Orange County. This is an all-time high for our community. In other words, the highest number of new cases since the pandemic began was reported just yesterday. Sadly, 1,390 residents have died from the deadly disease. Our 14-day positivity rate is now at 15.58%. Again, an all-time high. Just a short 6 weeks ago, our 14-day positivity rate was 3.7%. So right now, we are 4 times higher than on June the 16th. The number of residents ages 12 and up who have at least one shot of vaccine is 62.34%. So I have to talk about our hospitals. The crisis continues at our area hospitals, and they are seeing a significant and swift increase in COVID patients. At Advent Health, they tell me the rate of the increase is concerning. They are seeing the fastest rate of increase in COVID patients since the start of the pandemic. For Advent Health's 7-county region, their all-time high for COVID patients was on July 17th of last year. It was 841 patients. On Monday of this week, they had 811 patients system-wide. Around 95% of the people hospitalized in the Advent Health system for coronavirus are unvaccinated. Orlando Health reports equally discouraging numbers. Back on May 27th, there were 61 COVID patients in the Orlando Health system. Yesterday, there were 286 patients, nearly 4.5 times the number of coronavirus patients since the end of May. Many of you may not be aware that Orange County has been actively participating in the CDC's National Wastewater Surveillance System, where COVID concentrations of the ribonucleic acid, or RNA, is being monitored in wastewater treatment facilities across the United States. It can give a 4 to 10 day advance warning of any virus spikes or outbreaks. Our wastewater treatment facilities service roughly 870,000 county residents, and it is showing a substantial increase in RNA concentrations, and as a result, we are anticipating an increase in upcoming infections. Our utilities director, Ed Torres, is here if we get to the point where you want details about the analysis being done. Now let me tell you about Barnett Park, where we are offering the testing and the vaccinations. For those of you who wish to be vaccinated or tested, Barnett Park remains open 7 days a week between the hours of 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. The site has been closing early, at least the lines have been closing, due to the large number of people getting tested. Over the past week, 11,221 individuals were tested. The daily positivity rate for the rapid test was 18.6%. There's a bit of promising news, though, within these numbers. 60 to 70% of those getting vaccinated are coming in for the first dose. Just a few weeks ago, it was only 30 to 40% who were coming in for the first dose. So we flipped that now. That means that our residents are listening, and they are increasingly getting vaccinated. That's good news. Now, what are we doing about the situation that we find ourselves in, this recent surge of the virus within our community? Under the Orange County Charter, as mayor, I become the acting director of emergency management, and I just signed an executive order declaring a state of local emergency here within Orange County, based upon those numbers that I shared with you. What that means is this: I will now urge our residents and visitors, vaccinated and unvaccinated, to wear masks when in an indoor space with others. We want our residents, businesses, and visitors to follow the updated CDC guidelines to make sure there won't be another shutdown like we experienced last year. Already, the Orange County Convention Center had a cancellation. A conference was due to come here next week, and that will result in a $12 to $15 million economic loss for our community. The health of our community has a direct effect on our economy. To that end, I am reconvening the Economic Recovery Task Force on Monday of next week. It will meet virtually between the hours of 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. Our residents are welcome to watch the dialogue with our business community as we discuss what we collectively can do to safeguard our residents and visitors and keep our businesses open. In addition, I have issued an internal order requiring Orange County employees to be fully vaccinated by the end of September. There are 4,200 non-union county employees who will have until August the 31st to get their first shot. Then they must have their second shot by the end of September. For the 3,450 or so union employees, the requirement will be negotiated with the bargaining units. Employees who meet a legal standard will be exempt from this mandate. Those are the individuals who have documented health-related issues certified by a physician, or those who have religious prohibitions and other legal concerns. Also, all Orange County employees are now required to wear a mask indoors while in Orange County facilities. You might ask, why am I doing this? Because I want to show our residents and visitors that Orange County is being proactive in lowering the spread of the virus, and we remain focused on lowering the number of hospitalizations. I'm asking other businesses to follow our lead. We are therefore pleading that businesses and other public sector employers mandate that your employees get vaccinated and patrons and employees alike wear masks. We know that some employers have already taken this action. We want to keep our county, our theme parks, and other attractions open for business. By instituting these measures, we want everyone to know that in Orange County, Florida, we take the coronavirus resurgence seriously and are doing our best with these safety measures. Our goal is to mitigate the number of new cases. Quite frankly, we believe that if we take these steps as a community, we will experience a significant decline in the spread of the virus within just a few weeks. Let us become the model community for how to respond to COVID and remain open at the same time. And so with that is the statement, the directions that we are giving here in Orange County. I'll open it up for any questions that you may have at this time.
Buenas tardes, Alibet Suárez con Telemundo 31, Telemundo Orlando.
And by the way, I am joined today by several of our commissioners, Commissioner Mara Uribe, Commissioner Maribel Gomez-Cordero, and Commissioner Nicole Wilson have joined. Ms. Ilia Torres is my special assistant, and she has the ability to translate any questions in Spanish and English at this time. So with that, we'll open it up. We have the first question in the back.
Sí, nuevamente, Alibet Suárez con Telenoticias 31. Mi pregunta para usted, Mayor, alcalde, justamente si nos pudiera decir en español sobre esta orden ejecutiva, qué significa, y sobre todo con este índice de positividad que ha estado en aumento, justamente cómo se refleja esto y qué se espera entonces cambiar nuevamente y cuándo quitar entonces esta orden. Perdón, es larga, pero tengo que aprovechar mi única pregunta.
¿Cuál sería la pregunta principal?
La pregunta principal sería que nos expliquen en español básicamente todo lo que el alcalde está haciendo, las medidas que se van a tomar.
So basically, Mayor, if there's a chance for you to recap in Spanish what we just said, in a shorter version about this new order and what does it entail for our residents.
Okay, Ilia, we're going to try to do this. Okay. I'm going to significantly shorten it up a bit, but here's what I'm asking our businesses to do.
Voy a resumir lo que le estoy pidiendo a nuestros comerciantes que hagan.
I'm asking our businesses and public sector employers to mandate that your employees get vaccinated.
Le estoy pidiendo a los comerciantes y a las agencias del sector público que le exijan a sus empleados que se vacunen.
And that you also require your patrons and employees alike to wear masks when indoors in crowded spaces.
Y que le exijan a su clientela y a sus empleados que mientras se encuentren en espacios interiores o cerrados, utilicen mascarillas.
And we know that some employers have already taken this action, and we applaud them.
Sabemos que algunos patronos ya han tomado esta decisión y realmente aplaudimos la decisión tomada.
Our goal is to keep our economy churning
Nuestra meta es mantener la economía activa
and businesses open
y los negocios abiertos
while we combat the significant rise in the coronavirus.
a medida que combatimos el alza en los casos de coronavirus.
Muchas gracias.
Kerry Sanders with NBC News. Sort of a two-part question. First, yes, no. Is the community in crisis?
Yes.
You have the opportunity to have made a mandatory mask wearing inside, but you've gone with voluntary. And we have seen the urging of communities to have voluntary adherence fail over and over again. So why not bypass this step that doesn't seem to work?
What I will tell you about Orange County, it's a very unique community. For quite some time, we had voluntary recommendations in place here within Orange County, and we saw better than 95% of our businesses comply. That last group, we incentivized the compliance by deploying strike teams and imposing fines and penalties that ultimately was invalidated by the governor. So we find ourselves here at the crossroads where, because we are here in the state of Florida and the Florida legislature passed certain laws that significantly restrict the ability of local governments to issue mandates, we find ourselves in this position today. So I have consulted with our legal team who researched the current state of the law here within Florida. And because of that, I'm taking the action that I believe that is legally defensible today and a measured approach based upon this community that I know the best. When we have pleaded with them to follow the recommendations that we have put in place, they have done so.
Troy Campbell with News 6. Mayor, are you officially recommending Walt Disney World, Universal, SeaWorld update their mask policies? And also, what will you do if Governor DeSantis simply voids what you just signed today?
I think he's going to have a bit of a challenge to void what I just signed and put in place, which is why we did it in the manner in which we did it. And I expect all of our theme parks to follow the CDC recommended guidelines. We have used that somewhat as the pinnacle for how we would go about managing the pandemic within this community. And so we're going to stay true to form and follow the CDC recommended guidelines during this public health crisis.
Steve Hudak from the Orlando Sentinel. Mr. Mayor, you obviously have been in contact with the hospitals. Do the hospitals believe they're in crisis, and what forward-thinking ideas do we have to handle the volume of cases they seem to be getting?
First off, let me say this. I don't speak for the hospitals. I just speak as an Orange County mayor, and I'm being my transparent, authentic self here. I have consulted with the hospitals, and the hospitals clearly are saying that they have reached a critical point now where in many cases they've had to reduce elective surgeries and other things so that they would not exceed their capacity. I shared with you the numbers that Advent and Orlando Health have shared with me, where they're getting very close to the capacities that they had at the peak, the previous peaks of this virus. So we don't want to shut down our hospitals. I don't want to see another person die. I don't want to see another person test positive within this community. But what I do know is that if we keep seeing 1,000 or more new cases daily, the hospitalizations will continue to go up. People will continue to die, and people will continue to get sick. So we can control that. Again, I'm imploring our community to work together to try to control what we can. I think our destiny in some regards rests within our own actions. Yes, sir.
Matt Lapoli from West 2 News. I'm curious about the county's participation in the CDC's wastewater program, since it seems like with that data, it's possible that our positivity rate could go higher. How long has the county been part of that program, and has it been a proven successful predictor for us in the past?
Not just Orange County utilities, but other utilities here in the community and across the nation have been doing testing and analysis, and in terms of its predictive capabilities, it's been fairly reliable. Now, Ed Torres is our utilities manager, I have responded at a very high level. Didn't get into the granular details because I'm not a researcher or biologist in that regard, but if you had more specific questions about it, then I would ask him to come up. Well, otherwise, I'm going to let it rest right there. We have used it to predict a certain trajectory for the virus within our community, and it has been fairly reliable.
Thank you. Mayor Lauren Seabrook, Channel 9. A couple weeks ago, I did a story at the Sheriff's Office. They were only at about 50% vaccination rate. I'm curious, would the Sheriff's Office fall under this? Fire Department as well, requiring all of them to get vaccinated. And can you give us any perspective on what numbers you're looking at right now? Do you know how many Orange County employees have already been vaccinated?
Okay, the Orange County Sheriff is an independently elected constitutional officer, and as such, the sheriff gets to set policy within the agency. He does not have to fall under the Orange County directives. However, we have seen at least one other constitutional officer yesterday or the day before announced that he was mandating that all of his employees become vaccinated. What I have heard the undersheriff say today is that the sheriff is committed to increasing the number of his deputy sheriffs who he desires to get vaccinated. But he stopped short, it's my understanding, of a mandate, but he's trying to offer an incentive to those employees with an extra day off or something like that in order to encourage them to go. From this press briefing this afternoon, I fully expect that the other constitutional officers will listen to what we have done here, and again, I implore all of the public sectors to follow suit. We have researched this in terms of our legal authority to be able to do mandates, and our county attorney is saying that we're on solid legal ground. But there's a process because many of our employees are also represented by collective bargaining. I'm certainly sensitive to those who are represented by collective bargaining and the leadership there. We will communicate with them and go into discussions about what we can do to get all of our first responders, those in fire, corrections, et cetera, to get vaccinated. In terms of the numbers, we did a survey not long ago of our county staff, and the county's HR director is here, and I'll just look to him. Ricardo, do we know an estimate of how many of our county employees are vaccinated to date? Okay. What he's saying is that we don't have a precise number, but we're going to find out based on the action that we're taking today, because we are going to ask our employees here within Orange County to attest to whether or not they are vaccinated or not. And we're taking this measure because we're public servants. We work for the people. And we do not want to risk shutting down more of our employment centers because our own employees did not get vaccinated. We are seeing today a significant increase in the number of our employees under Orange County government, under the Board of County Commission, who are currently out positive with COVID. We had an employee who died within the last week who tested positive. So with all of this, I am certainly very sensitive to the families, the plight of all of our employees, to protect them while they are serving you, the public, and I'm sensitive to this entire community as well. Okay.
Amanda Dukes from Channel 2. Mayor, prior to now, the school district had determined that masks were optional. Clearly, this changes that. What has your communication been with the school district, and should we be expecting an announcement from them as well?
We did an executive policy group call earlier today around 1 p.m., and at least one school board member was on that call. We have Mr. Scott Howard here, a representative from the school district, and rather than me speak for the school district, I think it would be more appropriate that he come up and give you a kind of an input or respond to your question about the school district.
Thank you, Mayor. And this is obviously new to us. We were briefed earlier on the EPG call about the potential of this coming, and the board is following it very closely. We do know the board has a policy in place that allows for the superintendent, if new guidance comes from the CDC or local government officials, that they can, in fact, enact a more stringent face covering policy. So the board asked last night at the meeting for the superintendent to gather the input of each of the individual board members, see what they wanted to do, and then come back and respond. We're 13 days away from the first day of school. They're going to continue to monitor the data very closely and look at it, and at some point they'll make a decision. That decision was not last night. There was not anything formal on there. And of course, this news today, they'll take that into consideration moving forward as well. We're still waiting for guidance from the Florida Department of Education as well, as far as what their guidance is going to be moving forward. So, thank you.
Yeah, Sam Sosa, Fox 35. Mayor Demings, is the county going to terminate employees who refuse to be vaccinated? How do you feel about that, if so?
If said employees do not have one of the lawful exemptions, they will be subject to disciplinary action, and it be up to and including termination.
How do you feel about that?
Well, you know, hopefully we won't get to that point, but we'll take measured approaches to deal with our own employees.
Emily Braun, News 13, Mayor Demings. Can you explain what legal exemptions would apply that would make someone not required to get the vaccine?
I'll ask the county attorney to come up. I play attorney sometimes, but it's probably better that that the real attorney responds to a legal question. And this is Attorney Jeff Newton, the county attorney. Jeff is a well-experienced attorney with probably 3.5 decades of practicing in the public sector. And the question is, if you could explain the legal exemptions for individuals who would be our employees who would be mandated, and what legal exemptions would exist for them not to be required to get vaccinated.
There are two specific legal exemptions that you typically hear in this kind of environment where there is a mandatory vaccination of employees. And one of those exemptions is a sincere religious belief, and the other exemption relates to medical conditions that the employee may have. There are certain requirements along the lines of the American Disabilities Act that would fit those medical condition requirement. And so those are two of the very broad categories that exist in terms of exemptions, which would allow an employee to utilize.
Boy, Fox 35 News. Would you go as far as firing a worker for not getting vaccinated?
You know, whenever we make a serious determination to terminate an employee, we look at progressive discipline. So we would give the employee certain direction, and over time, you know, it could be up into including termination.
Mayor Alexa with Channel 9, you talked about the union employees having to go to the bargaining table now with their representatives to sort this all out. Is there a time frame on that? We know sometimes these negotiations can take a really long time.
Well, you know, what we try to do is take action in a timely manner, and some things you have to work out, but what we can do today is take the action that I've taken at this point and hope that as we begin to explain to our employees and others that this is the right thing to do at the right time, that they will understand. And I'm just trusting that that will be the case. We have an abundance of data now that suggests that we have to adapt, we have to take immediate action. We have an abundance of other medical and health-related data that says that getting the vaccine is, while it carries some risk, it's less risky than getting COVID. Okay. All right. One more.
Lisa Lampkin, NBC News. What do you want Disney or Universal, what do you hope for them to do in response to what you've done with the order?
I want not just Disney and Universal, but I want all of our businesses to hear our appeal, that if we all take these actions together, then we can significantly slow down the spread of the novel coronavirus within our community and bring those numbers down, reduce the hospitalization, and allow them to stay open. So that's the goal, is to stay open. This isn't something that I think that is difficult to do. We've actually been there before, where their guests and patrons were wearing facial coverings and they were open. In terms of mandating or requiring employees to get vaccinated, today I hear many of our local businesses are doing the same. Some of our hoteliers and others are doing the same. So we're just saying we're pleading with our community now to help us keep our economy and our businesses open by doing this. I think they will do it. I hope that they will listen. I hope that you, the media, will cover this story in an objective manner and help us with this process. All right. Thank you all for coming this afternoon. We appreciate your attendance. The next press briefing will be on Monday afternoon at 4:30 p.m. Monday afternoon, 4:30.